Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I am delighted that you're with us today. Oh, my wonderful friends, our guest today is your host's own very close and very dear friend, Sandra Champlain. I think I've known Sandra for going on 20 years now, and with Dr. R. Craig Hogan, she is perhaps the only other person I can name who knows as much as I do about the afterlife, with the same range and depth of knowledge, and who has devoted as much as I devote my time and my energy to sharing what she knows with all the world. Sandra's personal investigation and her long trip from doubt, and she really did doubt in the beginning, to certainty happened because of her beloved father's death. And now Sandra, once she learned the truth, she's made teaching everyone what we know to be true, that we don't die, which is the central mission of the whole rest of her life. She has made her certainty her mission to make everybody else's certainty as well. And I just love her. I can't tell you. She's like a force of nature. When you know her, she's somebody you've got to know better and better. She's someone wonderful. She guests frequently on George Noory's Coast to Coast, where she keeps the world up to date on the latest afterlife news. And every Sunday she hosts an extremely popular Sunday gathering. We're going to ask her to talk more about that today. She puts out 2 weekly podcasts. I only can manage this one. And she does one with George Noory called Shades of the Afterlife. And she does her own podcast too, which is called We Don't Die. Which, as I just said, is also the title of her website and of her best-selling book. We Don't Die is kind of that's her trademark. Sandra Champlain is with us today for the 20th time. Oh, my darling friend Sandra, welcome. I'm so glad you're here, and it's lovely to have you back with us again.
Oh, thanks so much, Roberta. How can it be 20 times?
Yeah, oh, well, it's going to be probably a lot more than 20 times. And We Don't Die actually is the key to Sandra. If you just go to her website, you can find all the stuff she's up to. So I would recommend you just keep We Don't Die right up there on your computer, and you can always find her. So here we go. We talked beforehand about what we ought to talk about, and we have several ideas in mind, but I don't now know hardly where to begin. We talked about Charlie Kirk's assassination, and it upset both of us. It upset a lot of people. And Sandra said it set her to reading the Gospels again, and which I think it did for a lot of people. And it made her buy Thomas Jefferson's book on the Gospels, which of course made me think, we're going to talk about Thomas Jefferson again. We might do that too, but let's start wherever you'd like to start, my dear one. What do you think?
Well, the truth of it is, when Charlie Kirk passed, obviously it was devastating, whether you believed in what he had to say, you didn't. I mean, it was just a massive thing, but it's now created this movement of so many young people going to church and looking for spirituality. And so while I didn't really follow too much of it, there was this little nudge that I just kept feeling to research Jesus, because
yeah, I think a lot of people did.
Yeah, tied in with everything I do. Now, for people who don't know me, I have close to 800 episodes, podcast episodes, for all the different reasons to believe in the afterlife. And there's many. So I've been a researcher. My own heart was healed with the information that I received, and now I just continue to give. That's why I'm on planet Earth. But as an explorer, I still want to learn, and I want to grow and things. And I found a podcast episode. It was on YouTube, and I'm always fascinated by near-death experiences, although they don't prove what happens in the afterlife, and there's zillions of them, as many people who've ever lived on planet Earth have that many varied near-death experiences. But to me, they show that our consciousness is outside of our body. Like our consciousness continues. And so there's verifiable near-death experiences where people can hover above operating rooms. And so I find all of it fascinating. So I found this video, and again, a lot of people were talking about Jesus. Now, I grew up Catholic, but I can't say I ever had the faith, right? Like I just had to, because that's where my parents sent me for all those years to wear the uniforms and things. And so faith alone didn't help me believe in the afterlife. But I started thinking, is there something I'm missing, not having this connection everybody's going for now with Jesus, right? So I've done this under the radar. I haven't really talked about it. I never want to insult anyone's religious beliefs. Never, because I believe that, there's many religions out in the world, and just like lamps, there's many different lamps. There's only one light.
And they all shed light. Exactly.
Right? So that's how I feel. So I don't get into religion at all. So I'm just on this little personal journey. So up popped this YouTube video of a man that had a near-death experience, and he had this conversation with Jesus. So I thought, well, let me watch this. And to be honest with you, Roberta, I got offended because he started off with all the nice bits about love and forgiveness and being of service and all that. And then he went down this tunnel of saying, if you don't follow the Gospels, you're wrong. And if it's in the Bible, and I'm thinking, Jesus would never say that, right? Like, I just knew that, Jesus. So that led me to another one, because there's a huge amount of people who have near-death experiences that see Jesus. Now, some people see the light, but I hadn't heard too many stories of other figures in other religions. So I found this guy who reported himself as an expert, and he said he studied 5,000 near-death experiences, and predominantly Jesus comes through. And, that rubbed me the wrong way, too, because I'm thinking, that can't be, right? So I dug and I dug and I dug. And there's all kinds of people around the world that actually have studied this. Now, the thing is, because we speak English, we are predominantly the Americans, Canadians, Australians, North Americans that have the culture of Christianity or something similar. That might be why Jesus pops up. But there are plenty of people around the world that study different cultures. And at some point today, maybe I can read some of them of what other people experience in the near-death experience.
Right.
So I've come to believe on that front that we human beings and how the universe or God or the light, whatever you want to call it, is so respectful of our beliefs that we enter in something that is comfortable to us.
That's so true.
And I love that. Now, I also read a lot, with our friends at IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies. They just had their big conference. It's been 50 years since Raymond Moody coined the term near-death experience. But it's Dr. Bruce Grayson who's been along the journey since the beginning also. And he had a keynote speech that I watched that really impacted me. He says, even people that were highly religious after a near-death experience, they aren't religious, but they have the same spiritual truths: love, forgiveness, kindness, being of service, all of those things that Jesus taught. So then I'm thinking, okay, there's a thread going through here. And researching many of the world religions, it's the same thread of those common things. But secretly at night, I've got your book, which I love, Liberating Jesus. I've been exploring others. I've got maybe 3 books. And then I thought, oh, Thomas Jefferson created his own Bible that he cut and pasted between different languages, just the words.
The Jefferson Bible, right?
Yes. And I thought, okay, all right. But then also I'm left with a question too. So I do feel like this: many lamps, one light, right? So for me,
I love that expression, my dear. Did you make that up?
I did not. I got that from somebody I heard along the line. But the thing for me, Roberta, is I'm now, I don't know if it's Jesus talking to me. I don't know why that thirst is there, but it's a very strong one.
Your spirit guide is doing that to you, dear.
Okay.
I'm sure it is.
Well, there you go. Because the question is now we're 2,000 years after Jesus lived, right? And the Gospels and things weren't written till 50, 100 years after he had passed. And
Yeah,
I
about
know in the
80.
Bible, there's the red letters, and this is what Jesus said. Well, how the heck
He
did they,
spoke them in the red. He was,
how, how did they remember all those many years later to write that? And here's the other question, because you're the one to ask, and and I think other people have this question
of
because
course,
people
of
think that it's
course.
wrong to investigate the afterlife because of the Bible. And we can dispel that, on our conversation today. But for somebody who lived 2,000 years ago, for so many people to still use his name, and now his teachings were great, but it had to be something more to really make it that big. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be interviewing one of the producers of the new show called Miracle that's on the Angel Network. And there are some God's honest, real miracles that
Absolutely.
one
Yeah.
gentleman had a brain tumor and he's a scientist and he never believed in any of this, but he was given 3 months to live. And he says, I've got nothing to lose by searching spirituality. And he traveled with his wife over 50,000 miles to these energy healers. And he actually witnessed people that were blind and then could see, these real big things. He started documenting them and stuff. So I thought, all right, okay. Jesus had to
Okay.
do something big, plus the message for it to last that long. So I want to turn it over to you if I can, to fill in some of the gaps, because spirit guide, Jesus, whomever, the message is clear.
Hmm.
Whether you believe in a different religion or not, the way to really live life is through love and service and forgiveness and all those great things that we share.
Well, yeah, it was not for at least 60 years that the very earliest parts of the Gospels were first written down. Those people were not literate, the people who heard him speak. And what he was actually, he was educated, but he was an itinerant preacher. And he walked around Galilee teaching, and what he was teaching was radical. He was not teaching the Old Testament. He was teaching the New Testament, which of course didn't exist yet, about love, forgiveness, a lot of things. I just finished writing a series on the Sermon on the Mount, which has taken up, I think it took up different 6 weeks of blog posts. And I explained there that literally, think how many generations that is. 60 years. The adults heard it, they passed it down to their children grew up, and they passed it down to their children, at least before those words were first written down. Was it the same stuff that Jesus said? I'm not really sure. But I do know that Jesus himself from the afterlife and other people working with him in the afterlife were speaking to whispering in the ears of those who were working in the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, when they were first putting together the first Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and correcting where they needed to, when they were writing down the Sermon on the Mount. He didn't quite say this, but this is what you should really say. So they were correcting those words, not just in the Sermon on the Mount, but the other things that Jesus said. So I think we have pretty close to what he said. But he was walking around Galilee, and what he was saying was so much food and drink for people that as many as 10,000 people would sometimes be in the crowds that were following him. We read in the Gospels how he is trying to find food enough to literally feed these thousands of people following him day by day as he is speaking to the crowds. And nowhere does it ever say people in the back couldn't hear him. He had a big, big, big voice. Quite remarkable. But yeah, he was teaching radical stuff. And yet we have those words largely preserved today. And it's curious too. Not only do we seem to have pretty much exactly what he said, but the people who were putting together these gospels seem to have put their own additions into the backs. They were led not to mess much with the words of Jesus in the rest of the gospel, so we can pretty easily pluck out those wrong words now, which I think is quite remarkable too. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are what are called the synoptic gospels. They all come from the same root, but they're slightly different. And then we have John, which is different. It comes from a different root. Someone else was writing down. Again, which probably was 60 or so to 70 years after Jesus died and rose from the dead. I think it's quite amazing that we have anything that someone wrote 2,000 years ago, especially since it was first written down so long after he died and rose. And yes, he did rise from the dead. And yes, he did. It's all real. We have proof now on the Shroud of Turin, which we'll talk about a different day. You and I are going to do this a lot more often, dear. I'm sorry, but we really are. When I said to Sandra, hey, I need someone quickly because someone else, is not going to be able to be here unexpectedly to do this, she sent me, okay, these are all the things I want to talk about. And she sent me this whole long list. And it was like a feast for the starving. So we're going to do all of those topics. We'll do them one by one over the next month or two. I just love having Sandra here. But yeah, this is all real. Anyone who is questioning your religion, there's no reason not to question that religion because it was not started by Jesus. It was started by the Roman Emperor Constantine more than 300 years after Jesus rose from the dead. And he didn't use the teachings of Jesus, really. He didn't much care about the Gospels. Those were put together by clerics that he had assembled there to sort of, make me up a religion. Okay, well, we'll do that. And they did that. But he had his own religion in mind. He had to have a religion which gave him control of the masses. And so he invented a dogma. And the dogma was based on fear. And that fear-based dogma is at the center of Christianity today. The fear-based dogma is simply this. You are evil, you are sinful, and the only way that you can possibly, because they were sacrificing animals in their temple, you're going to have an ultimate sacrifice to give to God for your many terrible sins. And what should that sacrifice be? The only possible sacrifice is the perfect Son of God, right? Right? Doesn't it make sense? Oh, looky, he conveniently went to the cross and died for you. That's not why Jesus died. Actually, he has told me why he died, and we don't need to talk about that today, but it had nothing to do with your sins. Because, let's be rational here for a moment. I don't want to get off on this track. I can do this in a different day, but I think this is important that people know. Jesus came to teach us that we must forgive. A lot of his teachings, including in the Sermon on the Mount, are about perfect forgiveness. So why can't God forgive? Why does God need to see his own son die for our sins before he can forgive our sins? Why isn't that, why doesn't the church see that as nonsense? Why isn't that nonsense? Of course it's nonsense. God forgives us. Just say, God, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Please let Jesus live. Okay, I just fixed it, didn't I? Because God loves us perfectly. God forgives us completely already. We know that's true. Because God loves us so perfectly, God forgives Jesus completely. He didn't have to die. That was not why he died. He died for the simple reason that at the time he was on earth, what they were doing when people died was they were laying them out in caves, which they did, of course, when he died too. They were laying them out in caves until they rotted away. It took a few years because of the climate. And then they were gathering up the bones, putting them in bone boxes called ossuaries, and storing them with the name on them. And that was it. Then they would put another body into that same cave. It would rot away. They would gather up the bones, put it in another ossuary, put the name on their front. They had caves full of these ossuaries, bone boxes. So Jesus was going around saying, "You will never die." And they said, "Yeah, tell us another one, Jesus. We know that's not true. I'll show you my dad's ossuary. There it is. Here are all the bones. Dad's dead. Don't tell me anything else." So what could Jesus do? He had actually experimented with the fact that he could bring animals to life again. They didn't live long, but he could bring in dead animals to life. And so he figured if he died a public death, he would be able to bring himself back to life again after he had been taken off that cross. And then he would be able to say to people, "Ta-da! I didn't die, and neither will you." And he would be able to prove to us that life is eternal. And so that's what he did. It was a ta-da. Doesn't that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. I love the ta-da factor as well. And I know we've studied things like physical mediumship and trance mediumship. Mediumship, I think, is within the Bible. But Roberta, so many people come to me and they're actually doing something against the religion, against the Bible by following the afterlife. And I think the Gospels and Jesus' teachings were full with good things, but there are things in the Bible that are no longer needed, like not to eat shellfish, that was a sin, and not to blend different fabrics. And slavery was not frowned upon, but it was how it was regulated. So there's plenty of things. And I think people were following pagan gods, talking to the dead that way. And so it was for the generation that lived at that time. But I think when people just rationally think about this man who lived and practiced these things, we're not doing anything wrong. We absolutely aren't.
No. And does Jesus have an answer for that? You want to hear Jesus' answer for that? Jesus said, because they tried to, these clergymen tried to trip him up all the time. And one of the things they did one day was to say, "All right, Jesus, you tell us, what is the greatest commandment? We've got all these commandments, we've got all these rules. What's the greatest one? And, which ones do we not have to follow anymore? Which ones would we absolutely have to follow?" Because you're right, there were a whole lot of things that people were told that they maybe didn't have to follow anymore, but they certainly should follow all the rest. Jesus said, "I'm going to boil it all down to 2 rules, and you can throw away the rest." Those 2 rules are, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And the second rule is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. In that consists all the law and the prophets. Now, the law and the prophets was what they called the entire Old Testament of your Christian Bible. So you got a pair of scissors handy? Pick up your Bible and cut out 3/4 of it with the scissors and throw that away. Because Jesus told you you don't have to obey it anymore. Just love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself, because the rest of it is outmoded. So if it says, don't consult with a medium, if it says that on chapter 82 of your Old Testament, Jesus said, don't follow that anymore. It's outmoded. Whatever is based in the love of God and the love of your fellow man, that's what you do. That's it. Isn't that simple?
It's simple. And there's so much fear based in even religions today. And it's, I have a sibling who hasn't spoken to me in 15 years, really, since my dad passed. I got involved with finding out about the afterlife and investigating. That was my passion. She got into a church that if you don't follow that church, you're out. So,
No?
okay, and that's the way it is. So there's fighting
How
amongst it.
can, if you've got fear, there is no love. You can't love your fellow man if there's fear. So what they're doing is they're disobeying Jesus. They're disobeying the Son of God. That's wrong. She is very, very wrong.
Roberta, but for me to be forgiving and understanding and all that, I'm seeing where
You're following Jesus, darling. You're doing what you're supposed to do. What can we say?
I interviewed a woman, I'll keep her nameless, but she spoke about a near-death experience. And she's someone who has some religious background. She has psychology background. She's a black belt in martial arts. She's done some fantastic stuff. And she says in her near-death experience, she met Jesus. She says, but I don't want to talk about it because too many people get stimulated and, that it can go down another route. And I said, okay. So really a wonderful conversation I had with her about grief, about life. I mean, it was really wonderful. And she's also a medium. Now she's a medium and she's doing tremendous things and spirit art and drawing people's portraits and really lovely conversation. But when it was over and I stopped recording, I said, what happened when you met Jesus?
Yeah.
And she says, people have him all wrong. She said, it's the Jesus you described, Roberta. It's pure love. Don't worship me as a guru. Be me, my practices. Be loving, being caring, just exemplify all these different things. Just be that and be that light, right? And so that was all I said to her before we hung up. And, but it just touched me because it's like talking to you, really.
The Jesus that I met doesn't even care about the Jesus that I met. The Jesus that I met is, first, you recognize people in the astral plane. You don't get to go to the afterlife when you are in a body, because if you do that, you immediately die. But he spends all the non-time, because there's no time there, but he spends all his time meeting people who have just died and greeting them and being with them. Just doesn't have to do that. It would be easy for him to make a mimic Jesus that would do that, but he will not do anything. He will not fool people. He does it himself, number one. And we know people by their energies, and everybody has an energy which is a signature. It's like a signature if they drew their name and you recognize them. His signature is one high note. Whoa! That's it. And it's so strong that if he doesn't tone it down, you can't even get near him. It's such a powerful note. But he tones it down and you can get close to him. And all he wants to do is to talk about you. He's desperate for you to tell him about, how was your day, little one? He calls me little one. How was your day? And tell me about this and tell me about that. He remembers, because there was a time in 2022 when I was meeting with him, I met with him several times. He remembered from the previous conversation what I had said. How did that turn out? My God, no human person cares about me as much as he cares about me. It was almost embarrassing. That's Jesus. He cares about us individually so much. He doesn't care about himself. I mean, all he cares about is you. And I've tried to tell people that, and they it's like compared to Elvis. Elvis isn't famous at all. Jesus is famous. You go, oh my God. But he just cares about us. It's so beautiful.
There are so many people right now looking for the answer, Roberta, thinking it's outside, that if you can just pick up a Bible or you just study from one person or you just listen to one podcast, you'll find the answer. And as I'm a human being on my journey, things that resonated with me 30 years ago may not anymore. And that's just part of life. But I think for anyone listening or watching right now, you're on your own journey. We can offer
Yes, wisdom.
fantastic conversations and wisdom, but you don't have to buy them to a store, Roberta, and you want to get a nice winter coat. You try different ones on and see what fits. And you can walk out with one, maybe. But our episodes are that too, because some people might be interested in one topic or another or another, or this
Yeah.
feels, but it's really just to navigate our life. But that core light is there of loving one another, being forgiving, being of service, being that light, being compassionate, don't fear, have a belief, really. So
But
I just,
only love. It's all about love.
that
It's
is
about forgiving, loving, caring, just nothing. Remember, we are here for such a short time. There is nothing negative. I mean, your sister, how foolish of her not to love you for you're doing something for other people. That's all you ever do is things for other people. My goodness, how could she be so foolish?
yeah, I don't want to make anybody wrong now because I need to see through her lens and her journey, and I haven't followed her shoes, So it's that. Before we depart our time together, I thought your listeners may be interested in some of the other near-death experiences from other cultures. Can I share some of those, Roberta?
Yeah, of course, of course, of course, do that.
They're fun. And again, for as many people have ever lived on planet Earth, everybody's going to have a different experience of their life and also passing, right? So these near-death experiences, while a lot of people see tunnel and light and there's wonderful things, and I love what Dr. Bruce Grayson says, that they come back with that core spirituality of love and forgiveness and service and things. I just want to go through because I've never heard these before, and it took a great amount of research, but this is what's happening.
Can we just say first that it's your own spirit guide with other spirits often who are giving us these experiences. So these people really know us and they know what we need.
Right.
So they're helping us have these wonderful experiences that usually happen in the astral plane. So go talk about these.
But they don't insult our beliefs. So
That's right. That's exactly
Europe,
right.
Australia, et cetera, Canada, English-speaking areas frequently see a being of light. Now, it could be a monk, can be a Jesus, something like that. Atheists have their own experiences. Sometimes they feel a source or a light or a river of life. Now, in India, they often involve meeting who's called Yamaraj, the Hindu god of death, or his record keeper, who checks a ledger to see if the person's time is up. And then they find out
that wonderful.
and then they come back. Now, in Thailand, experiences are all often framed by karma and rebirth. Of course, that's what they believe in. People might see messengers of death or even tour hellish realms where souls are punished for specific sins. So that reflects the Buddhist belief. Okay. Now, in the Congo and Central Africa, there's less judgment and it's more about community. In their near-death experiences, they're met by their ancestors who tell them their time is not up yet, but they give them practical gifts or tasks to bring back to their village. In China, accounts are described as a celestial bureaucracy where there's a magistrate who discovers a clerical error in the book of life and sends the person back. So in Japan, near-death experiencers, they describe, instead of describing a tunnel, they describe a dark river or a vibrant field of flowers. So there's not a tunnel. That's common to them.
Wonderful. I love that.
I love these too. Native Americans, these indigenous folks account for seeing ancestors in the natural world who impart specific bits of wisdom or rituals to take back to the tribe. And then there's Indigenous Australia, and the journey is often described as traveling across the physical landscape to a sacred site, guided by totem spirits. And the last one I found is in Chile. The afterlife is often viewed as located inside a volcano. So what they see in their near-death experiences, they are in a volcano, which brings them to the other world. So obviously, the universe,
isn't that
or the light, right? The light is the same with all these different lamps. but it's so gentle on our own cultures and what we believe in. So I just wanted to share that for
I
anybody
love that.
who thinks, how come it's always Jesus, showing up in
Oh, not at all. Oh, isn't that wonderful?
yeah, but just to really be open. And not only that is, I love studying deathbed visitors that come right before someone
Yes.
passes away. And for me, that's one of the biggest things that gives me comfort. Again, how our universe is organized, that nobody dies alone, that people come
Oh,
and they join us and they tell us we're going to go on a trip and they look young and healthy. And there's often verifiable information. People they didn't know were dead. They come and yes, they were.
yes. Yes.
It's wonderful. So we look
Oh,
at our own skin. I got a little cut from raking the leaves the other day, but it healed, right? That's what our bodies do. We heal. We are miraculous beings. So why would we think stepping into death and the afterlife would be any less miraculous? We are
it's
loved.
so true.
You're not.
Oh, yes.
So anyways, I just wanted to share that for anyone else.
Oh, thank you. That is really to be treasured. That is just beautiful information. Thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
Oh, that is just so beautiful.
And you asked me about my Sunday gathering, Roberta, if I could.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes, I told you I wanted to talk about
Half
those.
years old. It's the longest relationship of my life, besides my mom, who's still here. Uh, every Sunday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 p.m. UK, on Zoom. It's free. We offer an empowering service. We call it the Sunday Gathering. We open it up in a little prayer and close it in a little prayer. But there's healing, there's music videos, there's always a topic, whether it's forgiveness or love or gratitude or whatever it may be, different things. Not too long ago, we did how to be in touch with our own loved ones. But there's a address where we talk and we share. There's usually a reading I do, some kind of a parable that's light, but it really sends a message. But the last half of it is a medium demonstration. So we have a guest medium that comes and does readings for people that are in our Zoom audience. And so we
Yeah.
often have about 150 people that are there. And I tell people, as great as it is to get a reading, and it is, I do believe that the people stepping forth from the spirit world are there for all of us. So really to listen in for how close the people are, because so often they talk about things, okay, I just saw you walking your dog yesterday, or this happened or that happened. And so you can see just how close our loved ones are. But then also there's wonderful messages. Not too long ago, there was a man on the other side who never told his daughter he loved her and he was proud of her. And she was handicapped and he didn't know how to deal with her. So he just avoided her. So there was
Oh,
a beautiful apology and that I've been with you and I
oh,
support you and I love you. And there's so many wonderful things. And so it just leaves me and it leaves the folks in the gathering just empowered because we want to empower people.
yeah.
Life is tough, but together there's things we can do, gratitude and love and forgiveness and all those good things. But it's kind of like, I don't know, jump starting everybody or plugging us in once a week to the greater reality. And then we'll meet up again the following week. And
Now, people should just go to wedon'tdie.com and they can sign up to get these emails, right?
sign up to get the emails. If you go to the store page, everything, all the medium classes we teach or the free Sunday gathering, there's a link there to register and everything is recorded. So even if you can't join live, I've got a Sunday gathering page and you can watch as many as you want of the past recordings. And they're just so empowering. And to me, no,
I look forward to just reading the emails that because I often can't go to to go to it, but I just like reading the invitation, what's going to be presented there. I think it's a beautiful thing you do. My goodness.
and Roberta, no matter how I feel beforehand, because the one place that we human beings shouldn't go alone, we do every day, and that's within our own mind. Because it worries about the future, stews about the past.
Right, right.
So it's a nasty place to get caught in. And I'm no different. I'm like everybody else. I have my worries and things as well. But then I get on the Sunday gathering and all is right in the world. And I remember that I'm a divine soul having a human experience, that I'm loved, and I'm cared for just the way I am.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a message that everybody needs to hear. You're perfect. You're on your own journey. Find what fits for you. Find what you're passionate about. You and I are going to be having a dinner in a couple of weeks, and I can't wait to share a margarita with you and
Me too.
talk
Yeah.
about that stuff. But it's important to follow your own passions. We have this one life.
Right.
Change. I don't think there's one life purpose for all of us. I think it's who you're being. And I'm being somebody who's interested. I'm somebody who shares, somebody who likes to make a difference, so you find all the different jobs I've had, I always carry those with me. So don't be looking for something outside of yourself. Spend some quiet time with yourself. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's nice to sort of furnish your mind with the treasures you've gathered throughout your life and just be comfortable there. And that's something that I've written and talked about too, because it's good to find ways to be happy. And the more you love, the more you find you can be comfortable inside your own mind. It's a beautiful thing to do. But my goodness, I just so enjoy talking with you. And we have what do you want people most to learn from the things that you're teaching? It's about the afterlife, but it's bigger than the afterlife.
and it isn't about the afterlife. So I titled my book, We Don't Die, as it's a bold in your face. Like, what? We don't die? But why I did that is I wanted to make sure I gave tools for grief. So many people come to our shows and our websites because they're experiencing deep grief. And by the way, anyone who doesn't have a copy of my book and you want a free PDF copy, the bottom of the page at wedon'tdie.com, just enter your name and email address. There's several goodies you get. It says you get the first few chapters. It's the whole book. It is, because chapter 10 is how to survive grief. It's what happens within us, because people, when they're grieving, it's a road we don't want anyone to go on, but we're not educated on it. So we think a lot of it's our fault, our thoughts. There's many people that take themselves out of life because of what's happening. So I wanted to give education and also tools to move through it. But with all that, with knowing that we are these divine souls having a human experience, it's like, how do you get your money's worth out of life? I think, and I playfully think this, that we were given an opportunity to come to Earth and we were told, you're going to forget who you really are. You're going to forget that there's this home and that you can never fail and that you're totally loved all the time. You're going to forget that, but you're going to have this experience, and you need to have these different experiences and different emotions so that we grow, that our soul grows, and that we can serve others. And so many of us have had some really awful things that have happened to us. But then we look back and we say, oh, had that not happened that way, exactly, I wouldn't be here today. And even though maybe my sister's not talking to me and all that happened around the time of my dad's passing, and I hit rock bottom, had it not happened exactly that way, and we all played the roles we did, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. I wouldn't have 800 podcast episodes out in the world. When I continually get so much feedback too about people that just kind of find their home in them, and it helps them believe, because so many parents have lost children and people have lost their spouses. And I say lost, it's only lost to this world because they are our biggest champions. And then when we take our last breath, they're going to be right there to greet us.
Oh, that'll be the day.
But they're never, ever, 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 ever alone. Those in the afterlife respect our privacy. Sure, they do. But we are constantly guided and loved. And when you say like Jesus, can everyone imagine, whether it's your spirit friend, your spirit guide, or Jesus, someone who's looking at you, that no matter what you do, you are loved.
And so much.
Start acting like that's the case, we'll be less hard on ourselves. So I know I didn't quite answer your question in one succinct way, but I wanted to say all that stuff, Roberta.
We're going to do this again very soon because we have so many more things to talk about. Well, this is wonderful, and I'm looking forward so much to seeing you in just 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. This is. I want to keep going, but I know that you have a train to catch or a plane to catch or some other wonderful thing to do. Stay there just a moment. I just want to tell everyone who our guest will be next week. Oh, this has been wonderful. There were so many things I wrote down I wanted to be sure to talk about, so we didn't get to, so we will get to them next time. My beloved friends, we've come to the end of our time together. This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so happy you could be with us today. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began and you never will end. And when you understand that deeply enough, it changes everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be Carolyn Molnar. She's the beloved author of Compassionate Messenger, and she'll be with us again for the 6th time. Carolyn is an excellent psychic medium who is based in Canada, and she's had something like 30 years experience in this field. I'm sure you'll enjoy visiting with her. Whenever she comes, she always has some new stories to share. So please be sure to join us next week. I'm looking forward to talking with her again. And this week, of course, our guest has been your wonderful friend and my wonderful friend, the irrepressibly joyous afterlife expert and actually force of nature, Sandra Champlain, who's been with us for the 20th time. Sandra is probably the only person with whom I could have talked about a combined topic that in many topics that I purely love talking about and talk forever. And that's the Gospels, probably 83 other things all at once. Whenever we get together, we talk for hours. And I don't know. I think that you probably all have a good friend or two like that, but she's the only friend that I still have in my life that I could tell anything to, and she would understand. And very few people are like that. Sandra works closely with George Noory's Coast to Coast, where she sort of keeps the world up to date on what's going on in the afterlife. And there are very few people who do that, which I think is, sort of having a sort of secret way to get the world new information about the afterlife is wonderful too. And she also hosts 2 weekly podcasts, which are basically must-listens for a lot of people. Most of all, she does that very popular Sunday gathering. And if you're not already a part of it, I urge you to do it. I'm reading and actually looking for each week and reading her Sunday gathering emails at least, and that's worth doing too. Sandra Champlain is a very, very special person, and we're going to have her back a lot more often than we've been doing in the past, just because I think it's important that as many people as possible hear what she has to say. And we don't have any more time now to really listen. There are other things I like to talk about sometimes at the end of these little conversations I have with people, but there's no time left today. So please just enjoy. Please make the most of this coming week in our one reality that we all share together, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being. And you, most of all in this entire universe, you are infinitely, eternally, and perfectly loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.